What's up, guys? It's JCrossX here, and welcome back to our class overview series for episode 6. If you aren't already familiar, the class overview series is a collection of informative videos where we're going to be discussing different classes in Fire Emblem Three Houses.
We'll be going over general information about each class, like their certification requirements, stats, abilities, and their overall strengths and limitations to determine their viability and what units are a good fit for each class. As per usual, these videos will be gameplay focused, so there shouldn't really be any major spoilers, but I advise you anyways to watch your own discretion, and if you haven't played Three Houses yet, you absolutely should.
For this episode, we're going to be tackling the Dancer class. This class can be unlocked by any singular student unit during Chapter 9 by electing them as your representative dancer for the White Heron Cup. Church units are not eligible for participation in this event, including Byleth. Skill rank wise, it is a zero investment class, but the requirement to win the cup is at least 13 charms, so that is something you always have to take into consideration when choosing your dancer. However, the dancing practice beforehand gives your unit a plus 5 free charm, so certifying into this class on any unit you want is extremely easy. When you win the White Heron Cup, the unit you select will automatically be certified for Dancer and have it available in their selection of unique classes. Although not innate to the class, the unit who acquires Dancer will also be granted the combat art of Swords Dance and the ability of Sword Avoid plus 20.
Dancer is a 6-move infantry class, which is relatively on the higher end for infantry movement, though you do have to be a bit careful about terrain compared to other sword-focused classes like Enlightened One, which has terrain resistance, and Thief, Assassin, and Trickster, which all have forest walking. Notably, Dancer maintains access to a unit's full spell list without reducing the number of casts. Dancer comes with only one class ability, which seems pretty disappointing at the point of the game it's unlocked. However, that one class ability, Dance, is easily the best ability in the game. Dance grants access to the Dance command, allowing the dancer to use their own turn to allow an adjacent ally who has already used their turn to move and act again. It's impossible to overstate how strong this ability is. This means that any unit, even your strongest unit, can act twice per turn as long as you have a Dancer. Notably, using Dance also gives a pretty significant amount of XP, though there is a limit to how much XP you can get from dancing per battle. Upon mastering Dancer, you'll unlock the equipable ability Special Dance. It essentially combines the effects of Dance with Rally Dex, Rally Speed, and Rally Luck all in one ability, granting plus 4 Dexterity, Speed, and Luck to the ally affected by Dance. These aren't necessarily the most impactful stats compared to Strength or Magic, but they're generally good stats that benefit any unit, so this should definitely slot into every Dancer build.
The base stats of Dancer could literally not be any worse. Whatever unit you certify into this class will not get any bonuses, and the bases are all set at 0. This doesn't really matter, since again, the class is basically free, but it's just something to take note of. As for the stat boosts, they are not anything too crazy, but for a sword-oriented class, they are not bad. It has a plus 1 in strength, a plus 3 in speed and dex, and a plus 2 in defense and charm. For the time you unlock it, these are serviceable for a physical class, and although they aren't amazing, these boosts along with its stats in general do not matter in the grand scheme of things. Additionally, the class comes with a plus 2 skill modifier in Swords and Authority. As per usual, the Authority bonus is always nice, and the Third one is alright given that most of the physical attributes surrounding this class are tailored to sword usage. At the end of the day, all you really need is a unit that has decent utility or a siege spell for free linked attacks to certify into this class. Summary, the stat bonuses and skill bonuses are definitely middling, but again, Dancer doesn't really need them given how broken the dance ability is.
To round out the statistical discussion, let's talk about the growth rates, which are really nothing special. There's a pretty standard plus 20% growth rate to HP and plus 10% to Charm, which can be helpful so that you can take hits better and avoid gambits in the rare case that you have to put your Dancer in range of enemies. That's where the positive modifiers end. Dancer does come with some growth penalties, a minus 5% in strength, defense, and resistance. Obviously, it's not good to have any growth rate penalties, but these are too small to make any difference. Overall, Dancer stats are average at best. Realistically, they're definitely below average. However, stats don't really have any effect on how good Dance is, and you should be using Dance almost every turn, if not literally every turn, so the stats don't hinder the class at all. Obviously, the offensive stats don't matter, and the defensive stats shouldn't be a big deal either as long as you position your units properly.
Dancer has probably the most obvious strength in the game, and that's the only ability it has being Dance. If you have an underperforming unit in a playthrough, a unit that has decent utility on their magic, or just a free unit you are given that you don't really need, you can literally put anyone in Dancer and get value. The simple truth of allowing your strongest unit to act twice is just obviously broken. Dancers enable some pretty crazy player phasing that wouldn't be possible outside of very specific cases like Raging Storm on a mirror. The stats really aren't special at all, but it simply just does not matter. Dance is just too good of an ability. The Mastery, Special Dance, also gives you even more of an incentive to use Dancer as it can aid with crits, help with accuracy, enable doubling, or even increase the damage of certain combat arts like Frozen Lance. The fact that it also has 6 move also enables you to keep it up with the front lines better than some other infantry classes, allowing you to dance even more. Lastly, being able to access magic means that even if you aren't dancing, you have more utility than a regular physical class would.
Dancer is a class that seems like it has a lot of weaknesses on paper, but none of these supposed weaknesses like the unimpressive stats, having only one class ability, and generally lacking offensive capabilities really matter all that much for the Dancer playstyle. If there's any real weakness in this class, it would be the movement. 6 move is good for an infantry class, and is good for the time that it's first unlocked, but as the game progresses you will have a lot more 8 move units speeding ahead and flyers taking alternate paths through inaccessible terrain, which can make it difficult for a Dancer to catch up. Additionally, not having Canto means you have to put some thought into your positioning to avoid putting your Dancer in range of enemies. Its mobility isn't the worst by any means, but it is the closest thing to an actual weakness of the class.
As for a final rating, I would give Dancer a 10 out of 10. This really shouldn't come as a surprise at all. If we haven't slammed it into your head enough, Dance is simply just a broken ability and on certain maps enables some really crazy turns. There really isn't much to say. It has magic for utility and the most broken ability in the game. As for units who can take advantage of this class, this is relatively broad as anyone can generally use Dancer, however there are some notable standouts. As previously mentioned, units like Dorothea and Constance, who have a siege spell for free linked attacks, are always nice. Additionally, both these units have access to Hexblade, while Constance additionally has Soulblade, which is somewhat worth noting since Dancer does slightly favor swords. In general though, Dancer should really just be reserved for whoever you feel is your worst unit. Obviously, Dancer can do other things than just dance, but 95% of your turns you will most likely just be dancing, so honestly it really is up to just the player who they think their least valuable unit is. Lastly, one important note is that this class is probably the best user of one relic, that being the Fetters of Dromi, for the +1 movement and access to Canto. This is extremely good on any unit that doesn't really have access to Canto, and Dancer, being an infantry class that you always want to have caught up at the front lines, is definitely a good candidate, while having access to Canto to escape the front lines or dangerous tiles.
As for the tier list placement, Dancer is such an obvious S tier that it's almost pointless to discuss. Choosing not to use a Dancer is basically a challenge run in itself. It literally just makes the game significantly more difficult than if you did have one. They're useful in every situation, whether you prefer to fully clear maps or use skips to rush through them. You can make some of the worst units in the game into a Dancer and they will still end up being one of your most useful, which just goes to show how strong this class is. There's a genuine argument for being the absolute best class in the game.
That's about all there is to say about the unique class of Dancer. If you liked the video or have any thoughts of your own, please leave a like and make sure to comment.
I also recommend checking the description if you're not already subscribed to both of our channels, especially now since we are alternating channel uploads.
We're on the home stretch for unique classes. Make sure you check out episode 7 over on King Moosh's channel, where we'll be discussing the Noble and Commoner classes.